Furniture prices are going down, and here's why. Because we have big box furniture retailers like your Restoration Hardwares and your Crate and Barrel starting to quietly discount their prices. Because unlike an IKEA where there's a big sale sign everywhere, these discounts are going to be more subtle and it's really just the beginning. So walk with me through a high-end furniture mall and let's talk about it together. Now, in my last video, I explained how IKEA, a value furniture brand for the middle class, declared in January and April 2024 that they're going to drop the prices on a lot of their different items and try to get many of those prices back down to pre-pandemic levels. So then the question is, why is IKEA being so nice to us and how does it affect some of their other competitors? Because people, they want to get more market share and they want a bigger piece of our spending dollars. Because market share is just a way to see how big a piece of total sales you have compared to everyone else. So if people are spending $100 on furniture, IKEA wants more of those dollars while their competitors have less. So in order for us to go through this experiment, I just want everyone to have an open mind. Because I understand that a Restoration Hardware customer or a Pottery Barn customer is going to be different than a IKEA customer in many instances. However, we're going to talk about something called the domino effect and how one piece just triggering another piece can make all the pieces fall down. Many of us understand that higher prices sometimes means better quality and better customer service. But my main point is that high prices, like the ones that Restoration Hardware and some of these other big box furniture stores were charging us, was rooted in corporate greed and bigger profits. So we heard so much about how inflation was the justification for higher prices. But what happens when their costs start going down? Do they start lowering their prices? And these stores haven't. And that's crazy to me because if you look at it, until they have to, they're not going to. And since overall furniture sales are going down, they might have to, or else they're going to make less money. And what does less money mean? It means their CEO and their executives at each of these large companies that do billions of dollars in sales will get smaller annual bonuses. And they just don't want that. And if you're wondering, just walk to one of these furniture shops for proof, because you can see the shift in how much nicer the staff is now. And honestly, just how much more staff they have on the floor to help you. How many red sale tag items do you see? Or how many extra incentives are you being offered to make that purchase? Maybe a secret percentage. Maybe if you spend a certain amount of money, they're going to give you even more discount. Because second, a simple visit to a Pottery Barn or a Crate and Barrel website just shows that discounts now are topping out at about 60%. And if you look at 2021 to 2023, most of the discounts were topping out at 40%, which makes sense because during the pandemic, things were more expensive. But in today's world, should they still stay that expensive? But the real proof is looking at gross margins, because gross margins is a real fancy way of showing how much money the company is making. Because if I sell a cup of lemonade for $1 and it costs me 50 cents to make that lemonade, well, I'm going to be earning 50 cents per cup. And a company like Apple with their iPhones and their iPads, they're some of the best, most popular products in the world. They have a gross margin of 42%. And Tesla, which is a EV car maker, has a gross margin about 20%, while Nike has a gross margin about 43% when it comes to their sneakers. And these are some of the highest retail margins in their respective businesses. So those gross margin numbers are important because even though I can't get exact sales figures from privately owned retailers like a Crate and Barrel, like a Pottery Barn, because they're owned by big private international conglomerates, they are not going to be sharing it with us. But we can see gross margins at furniture retailers who are public companies, mainly RH, formerly known as Restoration Hardware, and a company called Arhaus. Now, I want to ask you an honest question. Do you think your sofa should have the same markup as an Apple iPhone or an Apple iPad? Because that's a good question because Arhaus's prices are really high. And Arhaus even acknowledges that their whole business is built around charging the highest prices possible for their furniture. Now, having their gross margins increase by about 20% from 2019 to 2022 is insane when considering their sales went from 507 million to 1.23 billion in 2022. So they were making a lot more money while selling a lot more stuff. How much more money? It's about $70 million more per year just selling stuff to you because they had higher prices, which to me is absolutely insane. Because even if you consider that Arhaus was becoming more efficient, and according to them, they had better vertical relationships so they can offer better prices. They spent a lot of money on showrooms, and in order to pay for those showrooms, they got to sell a lot of product, and they were able to charge more for it. And this isn't limited to just Arhaus, because RH also showed that they have gross margins that are some of the highest out of all retailers. Automobile, clothing, it doesn't matter. Because in 2020, RH had a 47% gross margin, and it went up to 50.6 in 2022, which is much higher than Apple, which doesn't really make sense. Just think about it, because RH was making more money on selling a $5,000 sofa than Apple makes on selling two MacBook Pros. Does that make a lot of sense for you? It seems like one has more craftsmanship, I agree, but it is so much more expensive than it used to be that I think those margins have to come down. Otherwise, it's just going to be too expensive for people. Now, I know you're kind of like, what is going on? These are just figures. What's the point? Well, my point is the clues are all here why they're going to join in this price war. Because in 2023, RH and Arhaus, their margins are decreasing. It's right there in the charts. And just like the car industry, those crazy list prices and those long wait times are just disappearing as the supply chain reopens. So funny enough, these same price gouging brands who blamed inflation for keeping their prices so high are now blaming less customer demand, you, for forcing them to lower them, which to me makes sense because less people are buying them because it's just too expensive. And doesn't that sound funny to us? Because if you think about it, brands were telling us, well, we can't lower our prices because our costs are so high. But all of a sudden, people are buying less, and then miraculously, I can lower the prices. I'm doing you a favor. That's what's crazy to me. Just like McDonald's is bringing back their dollar menu after telling us that they can never bring back their dollar menu. Well, it's back. It's back because less people are eating at McDonald's. And in context, if you think about a Restoration Hardware customer who are supposedly so wealthy that they don't care about price, they can walk into the store and they're like, hey, this is a $10,000 sofa, I'll take it because they're less price sensitive. But these customers that are wealthy enough to buy these $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 sectionals, well, they're just saying, hey, it's too expensive even for me. And ultimately, just like you have the rich, the poor, and the middle class, well, the wealthiest brands, the highest end brands that spend the most on advertising and the most on marketing, well, honestly, they're starting to slightly lower their prices, and this rate of lowering is going to increase. And then you have the IKEA, which is just a really huge store that is really competitive, and they are lowering their prices too. So who gets squeezed? Well, those mid-level retailers, just like who's getting squeezed today in this inflationary world? The middle class. And mid-class furniture retailers are getting squeezed again, just like in 2018 and 2019, when we saw a number of retailers go out of business. And you can't forget about how Sears went out of business, Pier 1 Imports went out of business, because it is really hard to make money in retail. Not only do you have to have a good product, but you need to be able to charge a lot of money for that product so that you can pay all your executives. But why is that the case for these mid-level brands? Because I think a Crate and Barrel store is beautiful, as you can see here. It is because they're not Restoration Hardware or Arhaus beautiful, because those are super fancy, super beautiful showrooms, and they know the secret. They know that if we go in there and everything's beautiful, we're more willing to spend money on it. And at the same time, a Crate and Barrel or a West Elm, well, they're going to have to contend with Wayfair and other cheap drop shipping furniture websites that are directly linking factories to people. And even though the question is it going to be good quality? Sometimes it is good enough quality that is close or identical to the same furniture you get at a Crate and Barrel. And then the problem is even more compounded because if you combine that with the IKEA dupes, suddenly who wants to pay 2x more for similar furniture unless they have to? And the final most obvious clue to me that Restoration Hardware and these brands are going to start lowering their prices is that Wall Street is actually taking note of these trends, because if you look at the Restoration Hardware stock, it has plummeted 70% from its 2021 highs, which is really signaling Restoration Hardware is making less money. Because nobody wants to spend $5,000 on a sofa unless it's made out of solid gold, unless it does something special. It's just not good enough for me that the material is similar to the material on my jeans or my pants. Because let me say something. I understand people seriously invest their hard work into great furniture for their homes, and I understand that because my wife and me, we love certain pieces in our house, and we have spent good money buying those pieces. So I'm not knocking anyone for getting the piece that they want that matches their decor, especially if you can afford it. What I am knocking is that these companies, they shouldn't be overcharging us for those same items, and we should be getting them a little cheaper. Because right now, all the clues point to they gotta lower their prices or they're gonna make less money. And if they make less money, what's gonna happen to them? It's not that far off from people are making less money to these stores are in trouble to, this brand is gone. So let's hope they get the clue, because if we, the consumer, are not interested in buying their stuff and we don't find that it's good value, ultimately, no one's going to buy it. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is my take on why the furniture wars are just beginning, and it's going to get salty, it's going to get hot, and I'm really, really curious if anyone's going to go bankrupt, because they can't keep this up much longer without being in trouble, because less and less and less and less and less people are going to buy it once they figure out that this brand is not value. Once people go, I can't trust that price because it's changing every single week, people are going to stop shopping. And with that, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment box below, and please hit that like or subscribe button because it really does help support our channel. And I'll catch you next time. This is Dave with the French Glow signing off. Bye, bye, bye.